Here's something most advisors won't tell you. There's a retirement risk that has nothing to do with how much you save or what you earn, and it may be the most expensive blind spot in your plan. I'm Jerry Bulaclac, financial advisor with Radiant Vest, and I'm talking about sequence of returns risk. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what it is, why the first years of retirement tend to be the most critical window, and what families may consider doing to protect against it. Here's what I mean. Two people both retire with $1 million. Same withdrawals, $47,000 a year, same average return over 15 years. One ends up with $1.29 million, the other $822,000. That's a $476,000 difference, and the only thing that changed was the order the return showed up. I know what you're thinking. My advisor says I'm averaging 6 or 7%. I'm fine. And here's the thing, you might be. But here's what that average return number doesn't tell you. It doesn't account for when you're spending. During your working years, a market drop actually works in your favor. You're buying more shares at lower prices, but the moment you flip that switch and start withdrawing, that same dynamic works against you. A bad year early in retirement doesn't just cost you money, it permanently shrinks the portfolio that's supposed to generate your income for the next 20 or 30 years. That's the risk most people never see coming. Quick note, before we go further, this video is for educational purposes only. It's not personalized financial advice. Everyone's situation is different, so please work with a qualified financial professional before making any decisions. The retirement industry spends decades teaching you how to build wealth. What almost nobody talks about is what happens to that wealth the moment you start spending it. That gap between accumulation and distribution is exactly what I want to close today. By the end of this video, you'll understand what sequence of returns risk is, why the first 5 years of retirement tend to be the most critical window, and what families may consider doing to protect against it. So let's get into it. Let me walk you through the exact numbers I opened with, because this is where it gets real. Both scenarios start with $1 million each. Both withdraw $47,000 every year. That's 4.7% of the starting balance. And both use the exact same 15 annual returns, just in different order. In scenario 1, the strong years come early. Year 1 is plus 22%, year 2 plus 14%. There are a couple of down years mixed in there. That's realistic, but the big gains happen while the portfolio is at its largest. After 15 years, that portfolio has grown to $1,298,000. Now, scenario 2, same 15 returns, same withdrawals, but this time the bad years hit first. Year 1 is minus 18%, year 2 is minus 12%. The portfolio drops hard right out of the gate, while you're still pulling $47,000 out every year. By the time the good years show up, there's simply less money left to benefit from them. After 15 years, about $822,000. That's a $476,000 gap from the exact same returns, just in a different order. This is sequence of returns risk, and it's not a hypothetical. Markets don't care what year you retired. So why does it matter so much when the bad years hit? It comes down to something called dollar cost averaging, but working in reverse. When you're accumulating, contributing to your 401k every paycheck, a market drop actually helps you. You're buying more shares at lower prices, and when the market recovers, those shares are worth more. That's dollar cost averaging working for you. But in retirement, you've flipped the equation. You're not buying shares anymore, you're selling them. When the market drops in year 1, and you still need $47,000 to live on, you're forced to sell more shares to get the same dollar amount. Those shares are gone. They can't recover. They can't compound, and that loss tends to compound in the wrong direction for the rest of your retirement. The first 5 years of retirement are often considered the most critical window. A significant drop early before your portfolio has had time to build any distribution momentum may create a deficit that's very difficult to recover from, even if the market performs well afterward. That's the danger zone. In just a minute, I'm going to walk through 3 things that may make sequence of returns risk even worse for retirees, and then we'll talk about what families may consider doing to protect against it. There are 3 forces that often hit at the same time as the market downturn, and each one may make the sequence risk worse. The first is inflation. If your expenses are rising 3 to 4% a year, your withdrawals don't stay at $47,000. They tend to increase over time. That means you're pulling more out of a portfolio that's already been hit. The second is required minimum distributions. Once you reach your RMD age, the IRS requires you to take withdrawals from your traditional retirement accounts, whether the market is up or down. We covered RMDs in detail in an earlier video, what they are and how they may affect your taxes, and I'll link that in the description. The key point here is that RMDs can force you to sell at exactly the wrong time. And the third amplifier is healthcare. We covered the real cost of healthcare before Medicare in a previous video. Link is in the description below. But for context, healthcare costs in early retirement tend to be one of the largest and least predictable expenses families face. When all 3 of these hit simultaneously during a down market, inflation-adjusted withdrawals, forced RMDs, and healthcare spending, the sequence risk impact may be significantly greater than any single factor on its own. If this kind of straight talk retirement content is helpful, go ahead and subscribe. I put out a new video every week, and we've got a lot more of this coming. So, what can you actually do about this? I want to be clear, there's no way to eliminate market risk. But there are strategies that families may consider to help reduce the impact of a bad sequence early in retirement. The first is maintaining a cash reserve or short-term buffer. Having 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash or a stable liquid account may allow you to avoid selling invested assets during a down market. Instead of liquidating shares when they're down, you draw from the buffer and give the invested portfolio time to recover. The second is withdrawal sequencing. Being intentional about which accounts you pull from and in what order. Drawing from taxable accounts first, then tax-deferred, then tax-free Roth accounts is one approach families may consider. The goal is to give your more growth-oriented assets more time to recover before you touch them. The third is Roth positioning. Having a portion of your retirement savings in a Roth account may give you more flexibility during down years, because Roth withdrawals are tax-free and don't trigger RMDs. We'll go much deeper on the bucket strategy in a dedicated future video, because it deserves its own full conversation. But the core idea is that structuring your retirement income in distinct buckets, short-term, mid-term, and long-term, may help insulate your spending from short-term market volatility. I want to share a situation that illustrates why this matters in the real world. I worked with a client who was about 18 months away from retirement when markets dropped significantly. On paper, they'd done everything right, saved consistently, solid balance, and a strong average return over their career. But when we modeled what their income plan would look like if they retired into a down market, pulling withdrawals while the portfolio was already stressed, the numbers told a different story. What we ended up doing was reviewing their income sources, identifying which accounts could provide flexibility, and building a short-term buffer so they weren't forced to sell at a loss in those early years. That planning, done before retirement, not after, may have made a meaningful difference in the long-term sustainability of their plan. I share that not to alarm you, but this is exactly the kind of conversation that doesn't always happen until it's too late. And you're watching this video, which means you're already asking the right questions at the right time. If your advisor hasn't brought up sequence of returns risk by name, that doesn't necessarily mean your plan is in bad shape. It may simply mean this concept hasn't been on the radar yet. Now it can be. The goal isn't to retire scared, it's to retire prepared, and knowing this risk exists is the first step toward building a plan that accounts for it. If you'd like to take a closer look at where your own plan stands, I put together a free pre-retirement readiness checklist that includes a section specifically on income planning and withdrawal strategy. It takes about 10 minutes to complete, and it may show you exactly where your plan has gaps worth addressing. The link is in the description below. And if you'd like to talk through your specific situation, there's also a link to schedule a free 20-minute virtual consultation with me directly. Now that you understand how the sequence of your returns may affect your retirement, the natural question is whether your portfolio is actually built for this phase of life. In my next video, I walk through asset allocation in your 50s and why the mix that got you here may not be the right mix to carry you through retirement. See you there. The content in this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute personalized financial, tax, or legal advice.